This is the Transparency Podcast Show.
Welcome to the Transparency Podcast Show. It is your girl, Blossom C. Brown. Hello, hello. And I am here with my wonderful, fabulous co-host with the mostest, Shane Ivan Nash. What's going on, man?
You know,
back in business. Where's our hand clap?
we're I don't know where our hand clap is. We got there.
Yeah, there it is. I don't play about the hand clap.
I love that.
Yes. Welcome to the show, y'all. And so if you are new to our channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so that way you'll know when we're on the air. Now, honey.
Yes, ma'am.
Today, I'm excited about the guest that we have in today. So from a few Jubilee videos, you may recognize these faces. Today on the Transparency Podcast Show, we have Greg.
Yeah.
Woo! And we got Ryan in the studio.
Hello.
Welcome to the Transparency Podcast Show, y'all. How y'all doing?
I'm good.
You look fabulous and moisturized.
Thank you. I did. I have.
For me, it's oily skin. Like people are like, I'm older than I look, and people are like, "How are you aging so well?" I'm like, my skin self moisturizes. That's it. I occasionally get acne because of it, but I never dry out. So
that was my first impression of you. I was like, this guy's oily. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait, did you write it down in your notepad?
where's your notepad today?
Where's your notepad?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yes, that is your trademark.
Oh my God.
I told you that.
You know, people have recognized the brand. They've been like, is that like, I don't even know what the brand is. I don't remember. But then like, is that like a blah blah? And I'm like, what?
I feel like that's
Wasn't it like a rocket journal or something?
Yeah,
like
it's like
Yeah.
it's like you can erase it.
Not that I knew.
Sounds like
I'm a
you
nerd.
had your first brand partnership
Wow.
in the pipeline.
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
Maybe.
Yes,
We'll see.
God. Yes,
As
God.
I sip from a branded drink.
Yeah.
We got this, y'all. We got this. So y'all were in a few Jubilee episodes. So let me make sure I get this right.
Yep.
So we did the Michael Knowles debate together.
Yep.
You both did 20 and 20, or was it 25 and 25 with Shane?
Yes.
And then you and I did 30 and 30 together. So
Yeah.
we've all crisscrossed each
And
other.
then we did Ben Shapiro.
I-
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
did.
did.
Shapiro.
So,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
I think was that the episode where you turned the chair around? Was that it?
yeah.
So
yeah.
honestly, I saw your plumber's butt crack before I saw you.
I know.
And I was like,
Where's the button?
I knew you were right there
Yeah.
too. I was like, fuck.
I was like,
It's a German thing though. Did you know that? That like butt
Butts?
cracks.
Well,
We apparently have longer butt cracks.
so junk in the trunk
Is
is
the
what I
toilet
heard.
still going? So
I love
listen,
you called me out on that. Fucking
we're talking about butt cracks and everything today. So how has life been since y'all have done these Jubilee episodes? Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, I went on Jubilee very kind of randomly, and it worked out exactly as I hoped. I had a crazy experience. I made friends, and I feel like I a little bit improved the outcome of the video, maybe. And those were kind of my 3 goals. So I was like, 3 for 3. Got it. Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
You know, my goal has been like before the last election, I had been saying that my goal was to like inherit the Daily Show from whoever's hosting it. And
Dude,
so
I could see you.
I mean, I appreciate that.
Why
I
are you
hope
not
they
a
think
correspondent already?
Well, here's the thing.
You have the fucking haircut.
I-
The fuck?
it's a whole thing. I mean, like it's a really competitive thing just to be a,
Yeah.
you know, and
Let's
and
put it
so-
into the ether now.
Yes.
Done.
And so like I've gone back, like I did stand up comedy in college briefly, and I got back into it this year because, you know,
I've seen some of your clips. They're funny as
I
fuck.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about stand up is like, I mean, it takes a lot of balls to stay up there. Like I've seen people bomb, and it's like, actually I saw this guy bomb once who was like, he handled it like a pro. It's like, I want to be like that anytime I fuck up in my life. I just want to handle it like a pro, you know?
Yeah.
But Jubilee has got a big audience, and it's, you know, it's kind of one of those things like, you know, if you believe in the law of attraction, like I willed it into being, on a platform that had a bigger audience. But I am totally jealous of some of y'all who have gotten on to like traditional media from that, because I haven't yet. What I have had though is
I think I'm the only one here.
that's 'cause
Wait a second. No, I got an interview from the vice president
That's right.
Oh, is that all?
of the Hollywood Reporter. Okay, make sure to shout that out.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
So
Shout out to Liz.
I've been recognized in public a few times
Yeah.
since, and the first time that had never happened to me before. I was in Tribeca, I think, somewhere in the Lower Manhattan, and I
Oh,
I had
wow.
put my shoe up on a planter to retie my shoelace. I think it was these shoes. And somebody popped, it was like a bush, it had a bush in it. And somebody popped his head around the bush and the planter was like, Ryan? And I was like, oh God, this is somebody I didn't respond to on Grindr. And he was like,
Not the grinder.
Down, you need to-
and he was like, can I get a picture? I was like,
we need to add
yes.
I wonder if he just lives in that bush, just watching Jubilee.
I mean,
videos.
listen,
He just-
sometimes sometimes to live in New
Yeah.
York, you have to live in a
Yeah,
bush.
he just found he's using that mall because they have like outlets.
Ryan just
to vacuum.
regularly visits
Yeah,
that
just-
bush.
yeah,
He actually is
just-
making another trip to visit the bush right
Anytime
now.
I have to pee, I'm like, where's that bush?
Child, hilarious. Now, what about you, Greg? Like, how has life been, and where is your pen and pad? Because that is your signature, by the way.
I know.
I'm kind of mad you didn't bring it today.
Sorry, guys.
I wanted to see the secrets.
It's the pen
inside.
and pad on the inside that
Okay.
counts.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, like I do all this stuff just like I do things for a funny story, and then I backfill in everything else. So
For
like
the plot?
I won't do something for a funny story, like if it's like unethical or like ridiculous, but like I just have been doing side quests. So
Okay.
and that is why that is Jubilee, that is everything fun. And then in terms of like more serious stuff, it's going good. You know, I'm married and that's going well.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been doing like some academic stuff that's fun. I might be working on an academic paper with someone because of Jubilee,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
So for those of y'all that didn't know, apparently in our debate with Blair White, someone made an academic paper because Greg brought it to our attention.
What
And apparently
university
you may be working with
There's
him.
a guy who went to he's got his PhD from Cambridge, and now he's at like the University of Exeter, I think, and he wrote this
So we've
analysis.
reached the UK with this
Yeah.
Blair White shit.
I just googled like Jubilee trans just to see what popped up, and it was like an academic paper in an academic
Oh
journal
my God.
where he analyzed the interactions.
Did they analyze us well, though?
Yeah. It was really interesting. So basically, what he said was like, and it's not, you know, I had to kind of Google a lot of words to understand it, but basically what this guy was saying was like, in his opinion, Blair White, being a conservative, really wants people to be sort of sorted into buckets and into sort of like hierarchies. And the thing that Blair doesn't like is when the trans community welcomes people who don't respect like gender hierarchies and gender binaries. And so it was talking about, I think there was a non-binary person there, and
Alex.
Blair
Alex,
was
they were
like,
on the-
Blair was like, you know, this, I'm remembering this kind of loosely, but it was like Blair did not like the idea of this non-binary person being included in the trans community.
Yeah.
Whereas Blossom was like, why not? And the assertion of the author was that this is a reflection of Blair's kind of broader like conservative ideology, because Blair wants the trans community mapped over existing sort of rules within kind of conservative thought. And she wants to tweak them just enough to allow trans people to sort of, you know, enter the party, but without kind of challenging the more kind of core underlying structural things of it. So it was really interesting. And I wrote him an email. I was like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, like, I read your paper. Like, I think it's cool. And then he said that there's a type of paper in his field where you basically just interview someone and publish it as an academic paper. And he was like, hey, like, would you want to do that and submit it together? And I was like, okay. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
I didn't read the whole paper, but did it talk about evolutionary psychology at all?
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
I think so. The main windows he looks at things through are really interesting. One's called hauntology, which is like haunt, like ghosts.
Oh.
How like we're haunted by the past.
I was reading a
Interesting.
little bit of
Yeah.
what she sent me. And
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, what is this?
And then the other one is monster theory, which is like how like monsters represent our fears. Like an example is Godzilla is a representation of fears of nuclear war. And that's one reason. And so it's like he just looks at things through this. It's almost like
That's an interesting lens.
Well, especially appropriate.
But it's
given that
accurate.
Godzilla, I think, originated in Japan, and they have
Exactly.
a very real relationship with nuclear
Exactly.
bombs.
So we see these things that, you know, upset us or traumatize us kind of represented symbolically. So it's really interesting. And I have really bad ADHD. So I was just going down the Wikipedia rabbit hole of like, oh,
ADHD,
yeah.
I feel like is a superpower.
I agree.
love it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And my ADHD meds are like, have you seen the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper?
Yes.
It's like, that's how I feel. Like, I'm like, I opened up the other 90% of my brain.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I use caffeine for that because I was on ADHD meds forever, and then like I couldn't get them because the pharmacist would like not tell me if they had it in stock, and then like my whole life
You need a
revolved
different
around
pharmacist.
like getting So I just caffeine.
I'm
Caffeine is
learning
fine.
more about ADHD.
Yeah.
I do not have ADHD, but my partner does. And so it's been a very interesting journey so far, like learning the different aspects of it, learning the good side of it and the not so good side of it. So, you know, I definitely encourage all of us to keep learning from each other.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, be friends with what you are.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
When you like are fully commoditized.
I feel like I needed to see a rainbow.
Yeah. You have like a range of products that are branded with you. Like you're going to have a calendar that has statements like that you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
The reason I ask about evolutionary psychology is because, you know, as mammals, like we evolved to put people in boxes. That's how we navigate the world around us.
Yeah.
And the great leap of human psychology is that we have these higher thinking skills where we do better than that.
Yeah.
That's not how we're programmed,
Right.
but we consciously choose to do better. And what people like Blair White do is they consciously choose to defend the evolutionary thing we were doing, you know, tens of thousands of years ago. Instead of like expanding what we're capable of as a species, they want to defend what we already have done. And that's a great way to not grow.
Yeah, but Blair White is a grifter, in my opinion, just like Buck Angel is. I think they
We've
like
got
to grift
grifters on the left
views.
side too. I mean, if
So,
you've
I
seen
mean,
the Unfuck
it is
America
what it
tour,
is.
that whole situation has been just exploding.
Yeah, but I think people on the left that grift, I think it's a lot different and a lot less detrimental than the ones on the right.
I don't know. I mean,
I think so. That's what's been like in my experience. And I think for me, and I think, and the reason why I say this is because I'm thinking about the amount of times I've been attacked and who it's coming from. So for me, in my experience, when Blair White and Buck Angel talk the stupid shit that they talk,
true.
in
Their
my
audience
opinion,
is more
their audience is so
viscerally filled with hate.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I know.
I've never seen that like that.
Wow.
Now with the left, I don't experience it as much. Like if there is some hating on the left or whatever,
But there's a lot of
nowhere
anti-blackness
near.
that goes on.
Oh, on
A
both
lot
sides.
of
I
different-
think there's a
Yeah.
behavioral norm in culture on the left of being not so aggressive, not so like lean in hateful. So I think we on the left probably have a similar proportion of people who are hateful, but they express it differently because the culture on the left is not so as overtly aggressive as it is on the right. You know,
Yeah.
you know.
But here's the thing, though, and I talk to you all the time about this. All four of us usually go on conservative platforms to talk and debate and all of the things or whatever. But do you feel that the left platforms us enough or any in this matter? Because I don't feel like the left platforms my voice, and I really wanted to know from all three of y'all, like, what are your thoughts on that?
For really quick, so I know that Blair White, trans conservative, Buck Angel, is he also a trans conservative?
He's a fool.
Okay.
No, wait. You don't.
How do you feel about
Wait, you don't want to
He's a
describe
damn
him.
fool. And Buck Angel, when you keep making them videos about me, just know I'm all on the trans conservative platforms, on the conservative platforms in your face. Yeah. Continue.
But yeah, so no, I think generally, like, I am a cisgender white gay guy. I have my pinky, like my part of my pinky fingernail dipped into marginalization. It's like I could not be less marginalized while still being marginalized, right? It's like I have the smallest little bit of that, and like
Can you explain that? Can you like?
Yeah, seriously, for the other gay white men that have no clue, because I'm like, oh my god,
yeah. So like, I grew up in a country club Republican household. Was no financial stress there.
So you know what it's like to get a $500 driver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of these things. Yeah. And I I came at the time. Now, like, people, I think I'm like a gaydar like calibration test. Like, if you can't tell that I'm gay, like, your gaydar's off. But like when I was a kid, like no one, people at that time had a very like stereotypical narrow idea of gay people. So obviously they still do, but more then. And so like I wasn't like queer coded back then. Like I got to be just like a straight white guy, right? And then I was very ironically I was very homophobic because I was kind of raised
rejection.
I was raised because like I think we're raised. That's the thing. Like I think a lot of people on the left don't like, not to sidebar away from the representation, which is the ultimate thing we're talking about here, but like I think that there's this sort of contradiction on the left where a lot of people on the left will be like, you know what, there is this steady like inculcation of prejudice where the way that the words we use, the media we see, advertisements, jokes, social norms, everything is just constantly, slowly, just like an IV drip of prejudice into us. And it warps how we see the world. And I think a lot of leftists would agree with that. But then you meet somebody who might be the consequence of that process. And yes, they might be like an unrepentant bigot, but it's like, I think a lot of people on the left don't consider the possibility that, well, if we believe in this process that's like brainwashing people, maybe some people you meet have been brainwashed. And maybe they're not sort of like intrinsically irreparably horrific people in terms of their intentions, in terms of their potential. And I learned that when I realized I was gay, because I was very homophobic. Mm-hmm. And I would describe society as very homophobic. And I think that made me very homophobic.
Was it internalized?
It was both. Yeah. Gotcha. So that was the thing. I had to come out to myself.
And also like social norms.
Yeah. Like
you're amongst your peers and you didn't want to be isolated in that sense too. There's so many layers to it. Right?
One of the earliest like schoolyard jokes I remember, and this was from, I think this would have been like the 5th grade, was it's very vulgar. It was like it was right, wrong, fun to watch. And it's like kids would go to me and like
I mean, it's still true. No, I'm
and it's like just think about it's like that's so like just such a casual schoolyard
I don't care
joke. You know what I mean? And it's just in so many ways. So I realized I was gay, and then I realized that I went through this like multiple year process of like deprogramming myself from prejudice, and then I realized, okay, if I was so off, I was in such another universe about how I understood this before I realized I was a part of it. Now let me think about all the other groups I'm not a part of, right? I'm not a woman. I'm not a person of color. I'm not trans. I'm not disabled. I'm not. And it's like, okay, like you can just think of so many, I didn't grow up. I grew up like very economically comfortable. Like all these things where it's like, okay, I probably don't understand that the same way I did not understand this. And so that's what I mean by like I have like my pinky finger dipped in marginalization. It's like I extrapolated out how much I must not understand the experiences of all these other groups from my experience of essentially transitioning into a marginalized group.
Okay.
So
I so want to take it down further, a tangent about privilege and
no please it's about tangents.
It's tangent time,
and I'll find a way to land it. Don't worry.
Love that. Yeah. Well, this is privilege is something that I think about a lot, and the first thing I'll say is I have a friend who describes the responsibility of cisgender gay white men in society as like a sacred duty because we straddle the line of privilege and adversity, and we are and also because most humans are conditioned to trust white men, we have more influence on the way other people think than most people, and which I kind of
which is true. I've felt the privilege when it's
real, and which kind of creates conflict sometimes with people who aren't cisgender white men in progressive spaces, and it's a whole thing about like who should be speaking when and where and why. But Blossom and I on the way here we're talking about human behavior, like this as a society is a complex system, and it takes multiple attack angles to change a complex system. And I think it takes all the above. And the other thing about privilege that I think is really interesting is that we think of privilege as like a binary scale and it's maybe each individual identifier. gender identity or ethnicity stuff. But really, a person's kind of profile of privilege is really complex, and it has to do with things like how were you raised, socioeconomically? What's your current economic status? Like a successful Black man who is a businessman would have a different level of privilege in, say, a predominantly Black neighborhood, in affluent Black neighborhood in Atlanta. Then his privilege profile changes if he goes to a predominantly white affluent neighborhood in Atlanta. And that's just how all of us live. We don't think about our privilege as a moving target, but that's what it is. And when you contrast that with like our biology compels us to maintain whatever privilege we feel like we have, and honestly to categorize everybody else we interact with, it really, human behavior becomes really complex. So I try to give people who are not as back when we could say woke without it having weight, people who don't get it, I try to give them a lot of grace, because it's really actually kind of complicated and it's hard to get if you don't live it.
Yeah, and I think we have to talk about the privilege within the oppressed groups.
Yeah.
Like me, for example, obviously I am the one with the least privilege here.
Yes.
But I'm also the one that's going to have to work harder than each and every one of you to be able to get to the same goals. And for me, I have to think about my privilege. Even though I'm Black and I'm trans and I have all of these things about me, I also understand that I have a privilege that some trans and non-binary people do not get to have. But for me, like, I've been on camera for over a decade now, being able to speak my truth and have these platforms, and like, we've done these Jubilee debates, and I was the one they pushed on Pierce Morgan and Dr. Phil, and I've done all these things, and I'm very proud of it, but I know a lot of my trans siblings have not. And there have been times where some of my Black trans sisters have actually called me out on my privilege, and they were just like, you and I were both at the CNN town hall thing. Yeah. I remember that. And when I got up and I protested, I got a lot of criticism from some of my Black trans sisters. Were like, well, if that had been another Black trans woman who dressed a certain way or acts a certain way or whatever, they would have just gotten dragged off stage.
Well, yeah, but that's an example of like the fluctuation of privilege. And like, there is not a lot of utility in trying to humble ourselves with our privilege, because we have the privilege we have. And like, a form of privilege is being extroverted. Yeah. A form of privilege is being confident. A form of privilege is being articulate. And if that's the skill set that you have, if that's who you are as a person, there's no reason to dim your light. That doesn't help anybody. Exactly. But people who don't have that and envy it, they take it as an affront sometimes.
Yeah. And I think one of the talking points was, I get to say whatever I want to say, no matter how controversial it is. And people think I don't experience consequences. Like, had it been an ordinary trans person that said the same thing, they would have lost more. I can admit I have privilege in that realm where, even at that debate or whatever, like, you had 3 other Latina trans women being dragged off the stage with security, but then with the one Black trans girl, I got to say whatever I needed to say.
Well, to be fair though, Blossom, your presentation, the way you approached it, like, it was a moment, and how to grab moments in a way that others don't. Again,
which is a form of privilege.
Is to be able to command the stage in that way, because again, it goes back to the confidence conversation. A lot of people don't even have the confidence to stand up and do what you did. So that's that layer of privilege that I think some people can look at you and be like, I could never do.
One thing,
Okay. Thank you for communicating. That's what I'm trying to say.
I haven't thought about that.
I told you, I'll find a way to land it.
2 things that I think should important not to get lost in this as well is, one, like, you're right, like, the kind of heuristics we use that we've kind of evolved to use, like kind of evolutionary shortcuts in our thinking, are natural, right? But natural isn't good. Right, that's part of being a modern person.
That's why we have
socialize. Yeah, like, that's why we learn. Like it's if you look in nature, murder is natural, right? But we learn part of the project of being a socialized, civilized human being is to rise above our nature, and also in terms of like these types of privilege, right? I think it's true, definitely. Like, for example, I am very close to being like a psycho with how little social anxiety I have. And that's just how I am naturally, right? And that's helpful. And we can look at all these kind of different forms of privilege. I think it's also important to remember that when we're talking about intersectionality, like, it's still the case that, like, I am, a very socially confident white guy. I am more privileged than someone who is like me in every way, other than if they were not white, right? Yeah. So like I think sometimes, not that you guys do this, but I think sometimes people kind of conjure up this fog of like, well, like everyone has different advantages and different disadvantages, right?
You mean all lives matter?
And it's like you got to remember that, like, yeah, it's you could come up with these kind of like hypotheticals, like Oprah versus like a homeless white guy, whatever. But like generally speaking, when it comes to these fault lines of gender, of race, of cisgender, transgender, it's very clear that on balance, as a whole, there are certain groups that are just
that's yes, but
privileged.
Yes, and I should say it's important to pay attention to the nuance because we are all conditioned to defend our struggles, and people tend to trade on their struggles like currency. Like people talk about who has it worse. We admire people who have it worse. Like we remember someone who won a marathon with a false, like with a leg attachment as opposed to an organic leg. We admire that because it's adversity. It's a thing we value. And so when we a non-starter, a great way to end a conversation with someone whose heart and minds you want to change is to point out to them how much more privilege they have than they think they have. Yeah. When oppressed peoples have conversations about who has it worse, the only party that like gets something positive out of that is the oppressor. Like that is the conversation the oppressor wants us to have. Divide yourselves so we don't have to do it for you,
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having privilege. I feel it's how you use it.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of people with bigger platforms that use it irresponsibly.
Totally.
And I feel like the smaller folks like you and I and
I'm not that small anymore.
Well, here's the thing. And when I say smaller folks, I mean the underdogs.
Yeah.
I mean the most overlooked, the most
TikTok's going to get deleted.
Out there. And I just feel like it makes my job harder as an activist when you have people with larger platforms than me not using their privilege to help other people or to be able to shine a light on issues. It makes my job a lot harder, but I'm invested in this work like the rest of all of us are.
Well, it's the issue with money being involved in activism and content creators and activists because like the internet has gotten a bit murky with folks thinking that just because you have a large platform and you speak all the beautiful words that you've learned from the dictionary and you've learned the diction and you've learned this, that, and the other, but you don't have the lived experience behind what you're saying or even access to like friends that have experienced that. So you're just regurgitating something with nothing behind it. Like it creates these content creators where they have millions of followers.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the Unfuck America tour, which it's being revealed all over the FYP of this going wrong and that going wrong because you don't have people that are genuinely in it in a way that have something to lose, who have organized, stuff like that. Like, again, my pitch for it, what I think they should do is they should rename the tour. You know what I mean? Unfuck is not going to work.
Who are we talking about?
You're also not going to get press with that.
No, you're not going to get press with that. It's let's just say names. It's the Dean Withers Parker tour thing that they're going to follow Charlie Kirk around and do that whole situation.
Also, they're going to booty clap to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Problematic, unconsenting ass.
Exactly. With everything that continues to come out.
Let me sip my drink on that.
Gummy bear man. And
I looked at the camera when I said
like, as an organizer, an activist, as somebody who's actually like changed things, laws, all of these things, what are they doing by chasing this man around? Like for me, and I've already pitched it on my TikTok and I'm going to pitch it right here. I think what they should do is create their own tour, rename it. And then also not just do political debates. I think there should be like a sports element to it as well. Like, I think that cause I really would want to play a 1v1 Charlie Kirk, anything you want to do, basketball, baseball, swimming, golf. Let's play, Charlie. I'm literally calling you out and I will debate you afterwards, but you have to play sports with me first because I want to see what you can do because I don't even think you can swing a bat.
Stay away from me, Charlie Kirk. I don't want to debate you, but I want to say something. I want to comment on something that you said.
No, I want to play sports, but I want to get into these college spaces, right? And I want this group to really start fortifying relationships with these in the same way that Charlie did.
Yeah.
Bring these kids in and have political debates and actually maybe even do like an after party where they're like actually doing like a social thing afterwards. So you're interacting with the people. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to come to your college and tell you what I think. And if you don't, we're going to clip farm you. And then everybody's going to shame you on the internet. But meanwhile, it's like, what is the goal? Like there's no goal in it.
Let me say something to what you said about lived experience. I think that's really, really important because there's a difference between
not a trans person on the tour.
There is a difference between commentary and then somebody with lived experience talking about their experience. And sometimes as being a political commentator myself, like when I have to talk about issues that are not about trans women, I try to keep that in mind. And me and my partner, my partner's trans masculine. We've been having a lot of conversations about like trans men and how I should approach certain conversations as someone that does not live that experience, but somebody that needs to commentate on trans issues because trans men issues are trans issues.
Yeah.
So I also have to prepare myself for that. And I've always wanted to talk about this. It's so weird because sometimes when I go on these platforms, especially these conservative ones, they have a habit of throwing somebody else's lived experience at me, backing me against a wall because they know I don't have that lived experience to talk about it. I feel instead, y'all should stop being lazy and just add on people who have that lived experience. But I have to remember in a lot of conservative spaces, they don't want to do that work. Yeah. And I feel like it's more erasure on the liberal side too. So like both sides do this thing where they're playing
kind of
ping pong
elitist
with each other.
though. The liberal, like, let's be real and let's call it out
like,
for exactly
child.
what it is. If you don't fit a certain marker of you meet this, that, and the other with a certain amount of followers and you don't have this and and it's like, and you don't act a certain way, it's like, you and I cuss, you know what I mean? People look at us and go, girl, we cuss.
I don't cuss.
Listen, girl, no, we don't fit man. Like whatever this model is, right? But the thing that like I'm not quite understanding is like that model did not win us the election. We need to shift as a party. And there's been so many people that reach out to me personally that say what I did to Ben Shapiro, they wish they saw that more in the Democratic Party because I mean, with what happened at the education where they were like, oh, there's a security guard. What are we going to do? Push him over. Like, make a move. Like, go to jail for a night. Like, you have enough money to pay that bail. Like, Bernie Sanders back in the day got arrested left and right. Like, what happened to our politicians? Like, we have to put some teeth on our side too. And you and I feel like have inspired a lot of people on our side, but they're not quite catching on yet because we haven't quite hit whatever threshold goal in their mind that we haven't reached a certain following. But like, I don't think you guys need to realize you need to get on the train now because Blossom and I are trying to change the party because we want to win the election. We do not want to deal with this bullshit. And we have to face the things that are actually going on head on. We cannot create this like PR, like, oh, let's put this person on and that person on and somehow we're going to get votes because there's real systemic issues going on with people that are blue collar. I work, one of my jobs is a warehouse job. So I work in the shit. I'm working a very mask, rough job, unloading a 13-panel truck in a day with one other guy, you know, and it's not an easy job, but that's why I have the opinions that I do, because I have my ear to the ground on what it's like in the economy for how people are struggling, what it's like to even have health insurance, but you can't even go see the doctor because you can't even pay the copay because so what's the point of having health insurance? So what's the point of having the job? It's like people don't have that kind of on the ground real experience. And a lot of these influencers don't because they're just panhandling on the internet for fucking, you know,
pennies on a dollar.
I so resonate with what you're saying because I grew up in a small town in the Mountain South. I grew up in Tennessee, and the county I grew up in is the whitest and poorest county in the state. Yeah. And so I grew up middle class-ish, but I grew up around a lot of poor and working class white people. And you just can't, if you want to win something, you just can't tell somebody who is white, who is living paycheck to paycheck, who knows what it's like to be one, like, you know, speeding ticket away from not being able to feed their family that month. You just can't tell them, well, you know what, you have it better than some others, because that's not their lived experience. And we try to be polite. We try to curate the way we put ourselves out there. We try to restrict within our own communities. We restrict who gets to speak. And none of that works. There's the thing on the right that they do well is that they are unafraid to get messy.
Thank you.
They're unafraid to
make mistakes.
Yes.
And support the mistakes afterwards.
And there's also this larger systemic thing of like on the right, there's a lot more effort to fund that like things that nonprofits
We're funding
call
this ourselves
programmatic.
here,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
content, like tours like Charlie Kirk does, all those kinds of things. There are people out there who are trying to find conservative voices to foster by funding them, and we don't have that on the left. Like
if anybody wants to support us, though, sponsor, reach out. The email address is in the
I just got denied a grant from a prominent LGBTQ organization that was soliciting grants for a programmatic thing. It was an event thing. But
is
the idea
it the one that I think of?
It probably is.
Oh God!
And so I pitched them on this project that I want to do of capturing like bite-sized videos of real trans people telling their stories, because what we need on the internet in part is a whole library of I want to flood the zone of real trans people's stories.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that grant, and I don't know yet who did get it, but it made me think, who was reviewing these grants from LGBTQ applicants that didn't look at that and go, that is something we definitely need to fund? Like why do we have so little money to go around? And why do we have so little effort to have a diverse offering of opportunities to interact with liberal ideas and LGBTQ people, et cetera? But I think 90% of podcast views or listens are on right-leaning podcasts. And that's not just
that's why I built this fucking thing. And it's not nobody's doing it.
And the biggest reason why is that there's so many more well-funded podcasts.
But liberals they need to get their shit together.
Yeah.
Like the Democratic Party just needs to get their shit together. We don't get along with each other. We're always infighting, and nobody can come to like one conclusion on how something should be built and talked about. They don't have the backbone. They cave in a lot to the conservative party.
Can I just tap onto that real quick? The other side of that is we also don't give anybody grace if we think they're wrong. So not only do we have the offensive part that we don't do,
perfection.
So we have that offensive thing that doesn't work, and then defensive sort of. We also don't. I believe that everybody whose heart and mind we want to change deserves as long of an off-ramp as they need to change. But what we do, we created cancel culture. Like we did that that happened, and what it does is divide us more. Yeah. And it doesn't make us an appealing group to want to join.
But
it wasn't necessary to a degree.
Sure.
It did cause a lot of stuff. But I think it's an evolutionary thing where we're on the next step of what's next.
I can't always afford somebody's grace, though. I'm sorry.
It's not required.
My lived experience, if you don't get it right, and you know better, I don't have time to sit up there and focus on your grace. I can't afford it. My livelihood cannot afford your grace.
As a trans person too, it can
it's
be
a different story when you're
the thing about this is like we may all be on the same team, but it doesn't have to be you two specifically that are affording somebody grace.
Right.
Like that, tap out. You know what I mean?
Yes. I have a lot of thoughts on this. First with
as a white privileged gay man.
Oh my God.
I was just going to say the reason why you didn't get the grant is probably because it went to a white gay man, but go on.
It went to me, Ryan.
We have that.
Yeah, no, but first of all, your earlier question: do you think that there is an underrepresentation of people who are not like white cis guys in the leftist space, debate space? Absolutely, I completely agree. I was talking to somebody who is like one of the bigger like TikTok debater people about this, just kind of randomly. We like ran into each other, and I was like, "Hey, I know you."
Are they white?
What?
Are they white?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I told them, I was like, I'm an outsider to this, but like that can make me not educated on it, but it can also be helpful to have an outsider perspective. And I've noticed that in the debate space, there's this value on like this kind of stone face. Like you might smirk when you like get in a good like attack on somebody, but like you can't be emotional. Being emotional is bad. And then like, for example, in our Michael Knowles Jubilee debate, one reason I decided to focus on trans issues is because I'm not trans, and it makes it easier for me to fit those expectations. Because it's like, if we're talking about like, should we shoot Ryan into outer space? Who's going to be able to talk about that calmly? Me or Ryan?
Yeah.
Right?
Can I tell you something about that? I will be honest with you. I struggled with you in that episode about talking about trans issues, and I'm going to explain why.
Yeah.
It was so funny because at the end, Michael Knowles chose you because ironically, I was in his top 3 to debate him one-on-one, you, I, and I think somebody else.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to think it was me, but I don't think it was.
His team went with them, and I was totally fine with it. I felt like when it came to trans issues, you had a trans woman there, and there was a black trans man there. And it's like with trans issues, it's important to hear the voices of trans people.
Of course.
Yes.
And I think in the past, what I've dealt with is people who are non-trans taking up space and grifting the trans issues. However,
and making money off of it too.
Making money off of it. However, I do believe it's important that non-trans people do speak up on trans issues because you will reach an audience that I can't reach.
Right.
And if you're able to reach an audience that I can't reach, I can't be mad and upset with you about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And analysis is not justification. We're not justifying that happens. We're just analyzing. We're being honest about it. Yeah.
Can I offer a solution just to, because I agree exactly, but I also agree with why. So the nuance for me, what I, as a trans person, would love to see is like, if you and anybody watching, if you're a cis person speaking on trans issues, maybe reference 3 other trans people go watch and learn from.
Or even one.
So if you've got a huge platform, you can then channel some of that energy to that. Because if you're going to make some coin off of that trans person's words, you should tell us who the trans person is that taught you. Or send your audience to a trans person. Me, I've got an at as well. But like, send us some coin as well. Like the idea that you're using our lived experience and then paying your rent, that like
that sucks.
Yeah.
It's crazy when, you know, you and I are still working regular jobs and, you know, doing the best we can with what we got.
So, and I just want to make this very clear. Like, what made me not struggle with you in the episode was how you did it and the things that you said, which was really, really important. I love you to death. Like, you are such a godsend.
Cool as fuck on the
I'm also not trying to make money off of this. Like, very obvious. Like, I'm not farming this.
Yeah, because here's the thing. On my Dr. Phil debate, you gave me really good feedback. Really good. I was scared so we're like in a group chat or whatever. I didn't do the Piers Morgan. I didn't ask for feedback with Piers because I know that was going to be a shit show and I knew what the opinions were going to be. But with Dr. Phil, you gave me some really good feedback and good tips, and I would never forget it. And that's why I love people like you, because it's important. Like, this is the community of debaters that I've manifested. And I'm so glad that all y'all are like a part of it. And it's really, really
it's
important.
Cool that we all like know each other and support each other.
Yeah.
You know, like that's fucking cool. And that's why I wanted to have you guys on, because I wanted people to find out more about the two of you. So it's not just the Jubilee clip farms.
I love that.
Hey,
you do this.
You know what I mean? Because most people don't even know that you fucking do stand up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like nobody knew that you write fucking academic papers. Like you didn't get to show yourself. So that's why even this podcast kind of formed, was through some of the Jubilee stuff that we did with Alex.
Yeah.
We brought them on, and I've, you know, channeled any Jubilee folks, especially on the left side, and I'll even interview some of you guys on the right, like, are welcome to the couch, because I feel like Jubilee does not get to really show like who the fuck you guys are. So who the fuck are you guys?
I mean,
like, you know,
there was somebody in the comments of a Jubilee video that said, all these people are influencers who are making $100,000 a year. It's like, we are? Like, where did that come from? Like,
I can't even say the amount of money that I got paid on the Ben Shapiro thing because we like signed a thing.
Yeah.
But that literally was a McDonald's meal.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
barely living in the state of California.
That's how much I made from fucking yelling at Ben Shapiro.
But you know, I want to comment on something that you were talking about earlier about you know, people need to hear from trans people. I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, you know, the systems theory. Like, it takes cool, level-headed, articulate trans people. It takes trans people talking from their emotions. It takes people you identify with. So in some cases, white men talking from an academic neutral place. It also takes white men who talk about it from an emotional space because they have an emotional resonance with. Yeah. So it takes all of the above. Yeah. And I think those of us who have more privilege and easier access to being seen, being heard, it is our job to, you know, if you have a privilege, use it. Like, it's not going away. Do good with it, but also use that as a yes and opportunity to pull in people who are less likely to get that attention and redirect that attention to them. Like you were saying, like I know several trans people who I think are incredible messengers, and of course I want attention. I would love to be making a full-time living at this, but I want to be sure that I'm, like you were saying, redirecting people to other folks who have less privilege, more marginalization than I do, and also deserve to be, if they're good messengers, making a living being messengers. They deserve that.
And I just hope people step up, because in the past, when I talked about certain groups that are not my lived experience, they don't always step up. And I hate to say it, it's been trans men. Like,
There's layers. So
hold on. Before you get there, because I know you're gonna touch it. I already
listen.
know how
I fight for my trans men.
But here's the thing, though. Like in my experience, and you've known this about me over the years, I've always let the door open for trans men somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna slide the door open for you, but that's all I can do. You bust through there. And in the past, trans men have not stepped up in that way. And there's a lot of reasons, which I know you're about to explain, like the why, because there has to be a why behind it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little frustrating when I do that, just not with trans men, but with just any group of people. Like I care so much about humanity in general. And in my opinion, a lot of the conservatives do not care about basic humanity because they would not have the talking points that they have. How is it so radical far left for me to want justice and equality for disproportionate groups? How is that such a far left issue that they claim it is? And one thing I notice when I go on these debates, they never can insult my intelligence. Mm-hmm. Every time you turn around, they'll go to misgendering me like Michael Knowles did in the video. Blair White's stupid ass will talk about my wigs. Buck Angel will sit up there and talk about me. But guess what? I'm all on y'all screens.
Well, people who want to hate are going to find something.
Yeah.
But I think
but they're projecting their own insecurity, and it's not them being booked.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps saying, oh, why do they keep platforming Blossom? They keep platforming me because I have a good rebuttal. Yeah. They keep platforming me because I speak truth to power, whether you want to hear it or not.
You have the skill and talent that makes it watchable, and watchable is what they're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys about Blair White?
Sure.
I don't. So what? How does that?
Right over here.
So I know that Blair White is a trans conservative. How does that work? Like, what are Blair White's positions about, like,
I love that this
gender affirming?
Okay, so I have
becoming a Blair White episode.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I have
gonna
figured it out.
I just
I have an
should I
opinion.
Hey
ask
girl, so
later?
if you're gonna clip farm this, just hey.
So here's the thing, Blair White. She's half white and she's half Mexican.
Okay.
But she uses white supremacy to really grift her audience. She doesn't even acknowledge the Mexican part, and this is something that I've called her out on.
Well, no, she does when she gets back into a corner.
Yeah, when she feels like she can do that. And she's technically a person of color. But the thing
Not
about
technically, no, she is. Don't
a
say
person of
that.
color.
Don't
but
say
the thing
that.
about
girl.
Blair, in
She's
my
white
opinion,
presenting.
Yeah.
in my I call her white adjacent.
White adjacent.
And the thing is, though, I feel that she and Buck Angel are the rejects of the trans community, and they followed other trans conservatives who agree with them or whatnot feel like outcasts. And so I understand that. But to me, I just see them trying to grift to these issues and say certain trigger points or trigger words that will bring their audience to them to support them. And then anybody who tries to have a difference of opinion than them, they'll send to attack. But the reality of it is, in the Trump administration, it's affecting you too, Buck Angel. It's affecting you too, Blair White. You too cannot get your passport with the gender marker that you desire. You too could be harassed going into the women's or men's bathroom. All these trans conservatives who are just like, oh, Amala is great and Buck Angel's great and all the things or whatever, like they're spewing nothing. Yeah. And the thing is, your intellect shows by you supporting them. All they do is bully people. All they do is project. They will sit up there and try to criticize you, but truth be told, they're not getting platforms.
Well, and just because you have confidence and fortitude and are articulate and are charismatic and a trans person doesn't mean you don't necessarily live on Earth too. Like they could still have a genuinely out of like an inaccurate relationship with reality and genuinely believe it's true.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with some of you.
You mentioned.
Well, hold on. I got to do the trans man thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me make sure to clear that up because I'm not
the why.
As a trans man, they'll be like, Shane, you let that slide. Okay, so
now, but you know, I'm not gonna let this.
The hierarchy in the situation that is interesting, and if I still don't form it right, because I know Laith Ashley said some things, but hopefully, as we've evolved, we can hear this conversation. So trans men do deal with the socialization of being female. Majority of us do have this, what I call being told to sit down, be quiet. You know, it's the same way that women are treated, and we're taught that as a child, right? So the combination of that with, again, men's mental health and all of the fun navigation that is, That's where you see trans men not truly being able to show up, because just like if you think about women make 77 cents to the dollar, right? So you now, and also if you know in the lesbian community, it's usually the femme has the job, the butch doesn't have the job, you know?
Really?
Yes. In the lesbian, listen, see, girl, you ain't a part of the lesbians. I was once one, allegedly. Girl, I know.
I did not know that actually.
I didn't either.
That's where the allegedly. No, I mean, because economically, and I definitely experienced this, is like being butch presenting and trying to get a job, and then having, especially pre-transition with the name that I once had. When I walked in the interview, they were like, "What in the fuck is happening?" So they wouldn't hire me, right? So there's a lot of masks that deal with that situation. So now you've got. Now imagine that person transitions, right? So now you think of it in terms of like a financial totem pole. So now you just keep getting lower and lower and lower in terms of financial access economically. So you have to think, again, if women are being affected to the, 77 cents to the dollar, that percentage keeps getting knocked down as you add on more intersectionalities. And that's why when you see Black trans men specifically with no representation, it's also the economic impact behind it, because how are they going to be able to fund to get a camera to get on fucking, you know what I mean? They're dealing with just surviving, so they can't even have time to find a voice when they're just trying to keep a roof over their head. Absolutely. So those are the layers of privilege that happen. So even in my space as a trans person, yes, but I also have the privilege, like technically, I brought you on. So I'm the most privileged here.
In case you didn't know, you're white. You're white.
But at the same time, here's another reverse. I was born and raised in Scientology and escaped as a child at 16. Way underprivileged than all of you.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
So and I'm trans. So like like you said, how that thing fluctuates is like, wait, what? Like where, and I have to be aware of that. Most folks are not aware of that and willing to be aware of that. But that's why trans men, like, if you look at women's rights and go, oh, that's a shit show. Unfortunately, trans men are men, yes, but the way the society still treats us, gives us access economically, et cetera, we're treated like butch women that are no sexual value to the male gaze. So there's no need for investment. And only recently gay men have turned on trans men and fetishized us. And you know what I mean? Like, but that's through porn, et cetera. But like even in those spaces, there's such a power imbalance that's still going on, because name a trans man.
That was a big one.
That was a long one. Name a trans man that you know that has over $1 million. Here's the crazy thing. I'm not like rich. Okay, let's be real. But I'm okay. I'm all right.
I got some bills.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I have some bills on auto pay. Okay, like ooh. In this economy, damn. But you have to realize
you're buying eggs.
I got
$12 eggs.
I have a Costco business executive membership. Okay,
wow.
Yes, cash back. But again, I'm in terms of my privilege. If we're going to look at society as a whole, not me as a trans person, just me as a white guy, not really up there. But me as a trans person, I'm up there. But if I'm still struggling, and like, oh shit, maybe I can't make rent this month because I got to do this gig or that gig, where the fuck are my brothers at? And I've barely at 35 been able to cultivate enough money to be able to get this. And it took years and years. And here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm a self-made man, because that's so bullshit.
Nobody is self-made.
There's literally a village of people that helped me and that literally just invested and was like, here, I love you. And here's some money. Here's this, here's time. Here's all of these things. Even Solomon right now, how he's amazingly doing the things that he does for us.
Love Solomon here at the
letting us, use his space and running this shit the way that he does. It's like, it's that ebb and flow and understanding that level and like how you can show up in those spaces. But that's why trans men, unfortunately, don't have much, girl, because like women are treated like shit.
One thing I want to point out is the way that we're talking about privilege in this conversation is not this sort of like, we're not doing this sort of like accusatory thing, right? Because nobody,
it's not oppression Olympics.
No, nobody's a winner in the oppression Olympics, right? We're doing this in terms of
Scientology. I don't know, I might have won, but
we're doing this in terms of empathy. And that is one thing that I find interesting when we're talking about privilege, is a lot of times I think people find it very threatening to recontextualize themselves as privileged, because I think that people kind of have a sense of self-worth calibrated to what they think that they've gone through.
Yes.
And if you tell me like, well, maybe it's been easier for me than I thought, that might diminish my accomplishments and diminish my, my sense of self. But what I really appreciate here, and where I think this is a very great way to approach this, is like I'm learning. Yeah, I'm learning. Like I'm learning about you and what you went through, right? And it's like I'm confident enough in myself, and I'm self-assured enough to where it's not threatening to me to learn more about what trans men experience, even if learning how trans men are, go through things is sort of adding more clarity to my sense of how, wow, I've really haven't had to deal with any of that, right? Like my sense of self is still intact, and I think this is the way to approach this.
Thank you, because that's literally what I've tried to do with this podcast, and most people have not seen the vision. But I'm hoping that more people understand why I'm creating these episodes. Because yes, they're sensational, and yes, we talk shit and we do kikis and all that stuff. But that's also to get the views in, because it's about the educational. Like every episode, if you watch it in full, you learn something and hopefully walk away from it. Even like I said, that drip theory. I'm like, even if I don't fully change you today, if I offer you a few drips of knowledge, maybe it can change your view on, especially trans people. Like, we are not a monolith. We have so many different people. And like you said, I really hoped that you would get try out the city of West Hollywood, actually.
I don't.
No, but I'm just saying they have lots of grants. Like I literally, like I've been a commissioner and Blossom.
Yeah. Are you in the city?
Yeah. Like we actually,
I don't live in West Hollywood.
No. But no.
But I play in West Hollywood
if it's a project for trans people, like we'll talk off camera, but Blossom and I are actually politicians too. Like I actually advised the mayor for Los Angeles, and I also served as a commissioner for WeHo. She served as a board member for TAB,
which I'm no longer on, by the way.
Oh my gosh, girl. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. But like that's the other thing too, is like Blossom and I, we may talk our shit, but we're also out doing the work.
Yes.
Right.
So like we have to also find people that are legitimately, like, it's not just, hey, I can say this and pay me a bunch of money because I'm articulate. It's like, what are you doing with that energy? Like, how are you channeling it? And I love that you actually want to send some of your, because I was like, Jesus Christ, when I started following you on Instagram, I was like, damn, Ryan, okay.
People misunderstand how like that is not a financial, I know,
but I was like, oh shit, he's got a following. I didn't know, you know.
Well, and fortunately, I have good metrics that never changes. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's
called being unproblematic. I have the same thing. So if you're like not racist, I'm making this a rumor, even if it's not true. Your skin doesn't crack. So like even if it's not true, I'm just gonna start telling white people stop being racist, and you won't age bad.
Well, I also am a Politico, and I had to turn to monetizing my social media and my online presence because the zone got flooded in politics with people who have my experience and skill set. Like I got really far really fast in politics because I didn't need to get paid doing it. And then I got to a point where it made sense for me to get paid doing it. Like I was an advisor to the Biden campaign in 2020.
Yeah, I know. I was reading about you. I was like, holy fucking shit.
That's why I love
that's why I wanted to bring you on. Like, tell me.
But here's the thing, though, like, it changes when you want to get paid, how people treat you.
I know.
But when Kamala lost, and when we lost Congress, and so there were 4,000 political appointees that were flooding the zone anyway. And then all these staffers, like they're bajillion. So like my only real, and my corporate resume is covered with DEI stuff. So like I am not hireable in this environment. So like I need to go to, social media. But the thing
about, rename it to something else, just so you know.
What?
I used to do resumes. You can rename it to something else. We can.
Oh yeah, I know, but I also used to be a career coach, and I also know it sucks.
Yeah, no, I mean you're still kind of screwed with some of those keywords. But
yeah. I might want to hear about your keywords. But one thing I will say about the privilege that I have is that like something that most people don't realize is that white men, and white women, but in particular white men, commiserate with each other about the world around them in a way that nobody else sees. Because it's only when the white men are in the room, and I get to hear those conversations because I pass through.
Too.
Well,
no. I've been in a secret club. I know what you're talking about.
You and I
got a box. And I know what you're saying.
You and I are heteronormative passive.
Hell yeah!
And so like we hear things that nobody else hears.
No, actually, you wouldn't believe. I've noticed that when someone's homophobic, they don't realize I'm gay.
Yes.
Like I'm wearing this. This is my. I was in Texas.
What the fuck do you think they say to me?
Yeah.
Okay?
I was in Texas. I was in Texas and Louisiana earlier. That's where I got this shirt because my friend was like, "Oh yeah, like my dad would like it." It says ATM, which I think of as ATM machine.
Wait, you didn't know that was Texas?
Yeah. But
Can I say this though?
Yeah.
In your episode with 30 and 30, and I noticed this right away, when you talked about your husband, a few folks on your side of the aisle were kind of looking like, and in my head, I was like, oh shit, there's a layer of homophobia there.
Oh,
There's
no,
a layer
there
of
is.
Transphobia there too.
Well, yeah,
like,
that's the
what
thing.
the
Well,
hell?
because like the reason, like, first, I agree. When I've had the experience that you guys have had, where when someone assumes that you are also like the straight white guy,
Yeah.
they just like, oh, you're one of us. I can take my mask off, and they just say the most insane stuff to you. And yeah, but no, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that. I remember one time JD Vance said that he thought that Trump got the normal gay guy vote.
Yeah, no.
And that's a very telling statement, a very telling phrase because they, again, what I think, I've been listening to this audiobook by an author named Jason Stanley called How Fascism Works. And it's like 5 or 6 hours. It's a really good listen. He talks about hierarchies a lot and how conservatives really like hierarchies. And just like categorizing people, like it's like a tier list for people, right? And it's like, and then also the conservative like political movement likes that because how do you justify inequality if not categorizing people as intrinsically more, intrinsically less, intrinsically more worthy, intrinsically less worthy? Yeah. So they start out with things like, men can only be this, women can only be this, and then you can expand it out to race, you can expand it out to income, you can expand it out to all these things, and so you can kind of create this justification. And so I think that there are a lot of people who are for whatever reason, and I'm not saying that like the average like conservative guy walking around is thinking about like how do I like justify billionaires, but like they do have this kind of alignment towards these hierarchies.
Millionaire
and so then when they see like somebody who is
Ryan, you're trying to get my security deposit.
Yeah. So when I think the more that you challenge the way they want to put people into buckets, the less they like you. Yeah. And so that is why I think you will hear like when I'm like the reason why there's that homophobia. The reason why there's that homophobia in that video, in the conservative versus progressive Jubilee middle ground that me and Ryan were in, and Shane was in too. And
I was there.
Yeah.
Look at that trans male erasure.
Yeah, Shane was on. You were on set for some reason. Why was that? But
because I was a tokenized trans person.
Yeah, you're holding the boom.
Because being gay is me messing with the boundaries of the bucket that they put men in.
Ooh.
And now that's they're traditional. Yes. They say we want to be in this bucket and we don't like you being out of the bucket. And now think about like a black trans woman. Think about all of the ways that you just completely color outside of their lines.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so that is where I think that you get that reaction, and you'll see it with the homophobia, they're just kind of like, ugh.
I was as someone who was not in the episode and just looking as a viewer, I was kind of shocked by that. But in my head, I had to remember, even in our Michael Knowles episode, there were gay folks, there were straight folks. Although a lot of us were in alignment with each other, there's still these layers of just like homophobia, transphobia that sometimes the viewer can just forget, especially when it's just liberal versus conservative in those conversations. And I was just really surprised to see that because I saw a lot of the progressive men making like these faces when you said that. And that's what shocked me.
What's interesting is that all of the progressive men were very nice to me off camera, and except there's one guy that hated. I won't say his name, but there's one guy that hated me and Ryan. And
I think I've heard y'all talk about this.
Yeah, but like otherwise,
wait, who's the chisme?
Okay, so
wait, you don't have to say his name, but I
won't
there.
say his name. Okay, so
where did he sit?
He was in front of me and the guy next to me, Evan. And so basically, here's what happened.
Wait, was he baseball cap?
He was like a bigger guy. He had drove in from Vegas. Do you guys want to hear this? This is completely off topic, just like funny gossip.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
we have to be messy a little bit. Okay, so we need that little clip.
So I have pieced this together since this happened. I've thought about, actually had a realization about this the other day. So basically, we're on set for this video, surrounded XL you know, like 25 like wokies versus trad men, right? And like, or however they titled it, and like we're there for like 10 or 11 hours.
That was a long.
And so we're in the first like half of it. We're all in chairs, and then there's two people in like a little circle talking, and then for the most part we're all in the chairs while people are talking, and me and this guy next to me started doing this like back of the classroom. Yeah, no,
I thought it was funny.
You know, like remember, like in math class in high school, there's just two kids in the back who just do not care and are just
I used to be that
so I was doing that with this guy next to me, and then
they kept going. Shh.
Yeah, and then there's this person in front who turned in front of me and the guy next to me who just turned around. I was like, "Hey guys, like, would you mind? I really can't focus on what they're saying." And here's the thing: I have very bad ADHD. I've been like studied, by the way. I was in an ADHD study where they tested like a treatment on me, and I got tested, baby. I have super.
That is so you to have that anecdote.
I have verified ADHD.
You know, RFK is coming for you.
Yeah. But so like
you're on a list.
I cannot tune anything out.
Right.
So I have been like at a concert and someone's chattering behind me. If you're chattering 30 feet away from me, it might as well be literally into my ear. And so I have experienced just stress. Like just like literally like the stress hormone of like I'm trying to listen to like someone sing and you're talking. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm being the guy who does the thing that makes my blood boil. And so I felt really genuinely bad. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But also I'm very forgetful. And so I do my best.
Doing it,
so I do, yeah. So I stopped.
Like, what the
So I stopped. So I stopped for like maybe like I managed to stop.
It was like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden you guys started talking.
So I stopped talking for like 10 minutes, and I completely forgot. And then the person in the center would be like, "I don't think women have brains." And I'd just be like,
"It was
what?
so hard."
And so I'd start to do it again, and then the guy would kind of turn around again, like, "Hey," I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yes, my bad." And then I started like writing in my notebook to like pass notes.
Yeah.
Because I was trying, and then someone would see it and be like, "Oh, I agree." And then the guy would be like, "Ugh." And so this poor guy sitting in front of us just wanted to pay attention, and I wouldn't shut up. Like, I'm the villain in this, right? But here's the thing. Here's where I think I stopped being the villain. We had a break in between part 1 and 2, and I went up to him. I just want to say, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I feel like such a jerk." I explained, you know, I am the guy who has my blood boil when people are talking. I don't know why I kept doing that. I feel I feel horrible that I've messed up with your experience. And, you know, hey, I am, you know, I want to make sure you have a good time here. During the second part, I want to help get you the microphone because you haven't talked yet. And we had this conversation. I asked him where he's from. Like, is this your first video? And I thought we patched it up. And then in the second part, in part 2, there was like 3 or 4 times, including, by the way, one time that made it to the final shoot. There's a shot where you can see me and you can very clearly lip read me where I'm like, "Do you want to go? Do you want the mic?" You see, there's video evidence. And I'm trying to get in the thing. And then it's all fine, right? And then the video comes out like a month later. And he leaves us a long comment on the video. Like, "I was in the video. It was the worst thing ever. Everyone on my side was horrible," or said half of the people were horrible. And it's like, in particular, Ryan and Greg were insufferable. And then he made like a video.
I love that word.
Like, that's why we cast you, just because of that one comment.
And
then he made this entire episode.
And then he made a video on his channel, like my experience was so horrible.
Let's watch it now.
Yeah. A video. And then part 2 comes out, and he writes the same comment, but he deleted Greg from part 2. So
I need to pay more attention.
But I was like, dude, like I admit, again, I was the villain. I was but like, I really honestly and like profusely apologized. And like, I thought I made it up to you, but yeah. And then what I realized the other day, and this is where I'm getting a little messy, is he's a DL. He's on Grindr. He's only 15 feet away. He said something in like the replies to his comment. Like I'm not like a progressive anymore because of this or whatever. Like he said something to that extent. And I realized, why did he want to listen so bad? Why did he have such a desire to listen to people hash out, like, should women be able to drive? I think he was an undecided voter.
Yeah.
I think he was like, well, I don't know. Like
that one dude that was supporting fucking Elon that was on our side. I was like, bro, what the fuck? Do you own a Tesla?
Like this guy shows up to this thing and he's not sure. Like one person's like, I don't.
Well, to be fair, Jubilee does that intentionally. Like, let's be real. There is a level of casting that I feel like is on, because I don't know how many times I'm now on set and I turn to somebody and like, oh, this is my first time debating. I've never done this before. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what the subject is. And I'm like, so we're shooting fish in a barrel? Like, what the fuck
I
is
have
going
comments
on?
on that, but I want to talk about this guy.
Yeah, and my theory of Jubilee, people have called Jubilee like a psyop. I found videos. I don't want to like send people to go like dig into the guy and like dox him. It's like I'm not going to like go too into detail, but I just, for my personal wanting to check, I kind of dug into the CEO a bit, and I found some of his like old like social media stuff, because he's a CEO, he's kind of cagey about like, well, like, you know, like we're here to represent both sides. I found old stuff from him, and he is, in my opinion, very clearly like, one, like very liberal, and two, you can find stuff from him like 10 or 12 years ago where he's saying the exact same thing.
Joe Rogan was very liberal at one point, and here's what I'll tell you. When I looked up the fact-checking company that does the little fact checks, that's owned. Yes, that is owned by a conservative and funded by a conservative. And there's a lot of stuff that also comes from PragerU. Most of the people on the red side are from PragerU that have already had a lot of experience.
A lot of DEI
funding people.
There's a layer to it that, like, because I know this because I produce this, so I know what it takes to get somebody to show up, and create a vibe, right?
Right.
So I'm looking at it in terms of a producer, and I'm going, no, I smell something.
Yeah,
you know? That's what. But I still participate because of like what you said. And what you said is that reach to Solomon, to the broader audiences, because now I've reached a different set of folks that, again, the liberal side has known about my existence. I've been doing the work for a long time, but no one gave me a shot. Unfortunately, conservative side did. And now people are going, oh shit, he has skills. But that also comes back to why trans men always get erased, because I'm still treated as a woman who doesn't know shit. And with the beard, they're like, sit down, shut the fuck up.
Well, Ben Shapiro was like, hey, bro. Well, broing out, bro.
And then to that whole, so the best part about that is, I know I'm like in his nightmares forever, because he can't look at another cis man and be like, does he have a vagina?
He was just
like, he cannot look. I guarantee you, he looks at like the most burliest man and be like, is there a vagina there?
He was like a kid being yelled at by his dad. That was the best
Thank you.
clip.
Yeah. So that was, so I'm, again,
and you're like
35.
physically bigger than him too.
Okay. You remember Dan from fucking Roseanne?
No.
John Goodman.
John Goodman. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I want you to know, I embodied him with the sweater and everything.
That's great.
And that's why I was giving him like the 90s. Sit at the table like, son, you're doing wrong. Like, and he just goes in like...
Before we get too far, because Ryan was going to also like, I think I definitely, and I'm sure Jubilee could guess this, right? They've heard it enough from people from our side. Like, I don't agree with how Jubilee does a lot of things.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I don't think it's like malicious. But I get why people, you know, I mean, but it's like,
I don't know.
That might be a distinction without a difference. But Ryan, you're going to say about the guy on our side.
Oh, well, yeah, because I want to comment on what you guys are talking about now, but I also want to talk about that guy. Like, I think, you know, people who are not as naturally inclined to have the fortitude to speak up, to, you know, lead, sometimes they get, I'm a more introverted person, that's me. But others blame the people in the front for that. Blame the leaders for that. Like they don't hold themselves responsible for developing the skill of taking the mic. They hold the people who have the mic responsible for not giving it to them. And so that's why I felt like he was unfair to us in that way. But also, you know, there was a guy on the conservative side that was really, really shy. And I felt bad because he was like, you must be Ryan, because he'd seen me in other videos. And I didn't have time to stop and talk to him. And I felt really bad about that. I could not tell you, I feel really bad about this. But the guy who was hating on us in the comments, I don't remember what he looks like, but I do remember what the guy who I felt bad because I didn't stop to talk to him for very long looks like. I mean, I just, you know, I had no idea that he felt that way about us until after the fact. And I'm not going to apologize for being who I am, but you know, my the entire purpose of
I loved how you ran it. Like, you jumped in.
And the purpose of that was to make sure everybody who wanted to speak got to speak. And it's not as if he did not put himself forward and get in the line of people who wanted to speak.
I love the way, so much so that like I, as a trans person, was just listening to you guys, and I sat down because I felt like our side, first of all, felt like a baseball team. It was like, all right, guys, go, let's break.
Yeah.
And I love that you took that role, and we didn't have a toxic thing. Like over there, they were fucking fighting and circle jerking.
You told us to stop doing things
I
that
loved
that
it.
guy.
Well, and
that's the thing. Ryan was like, guys, like, stop snickering. He told us, like, stop laughing at that. And that was one of the things that bothered. I was like, what? Like, Ryan was doing this.
No, I appreciated that
giving the material when we did
that you stood up and led that moment. I felt like, to be honest, as a trans guy, I felt very accepted, very safe. And even I was listening to what you guys said, and I was like, I was only going to jump in because I was like, if something wrong was said. But even Oliver, the young kid, the way he's got to slow down on the caffeine a little bit and slow it down a little bit. But he had so many valid points, and I think coming from a young kid was kind of cool to see.
Oliver's great. I did not know who Oliver was, and I saw him talking up there. So they gave us free Celsius energy drinks, and sometimes people hit the Celsius.
I did not have one.
Hello, Celsius.
Yeah.
Nope.
But no, yeah. So Oliver, like, I'm not like in the sense of describing things I have done, you could say technically I am a debater and that I have debated. I would not describe myself as that the same way I don't describe myself as like a chef because I made dinner last night. Like, but Oliver is like not to like a debater. He's this young kid who was in our episode, and like,
is he the one who says he does 6 hours of debating a day with different people on his channel?
I think that was someone else. But so yeah, and like he just went and like I kind of engineered Oliver. I was like, oh, Oliver knows what he's doing. So the second time he went, I was like,
same. We were all supporting. Like, okay, I think he's actually like it. The other side, I felt like they were like, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the guy.
I was pushing.
We were all kind of like looking at each other and going, okay, who's going to be the one that's actually going to fucking bat this right?
And the thing, to your point, like, right, like I believe in a very specific type of personal responsibility, which is like, because there's the people who say, there's the people who say like, kind of, woe is me, like, the world has just kind of ruined my life. There's nothing I can do. Then there's the people who are like, everything's your fault. And I don't think it's either. Here's what I think. I think we can say things are very unfair, and we should acknowledge that, and we should try to make it better. And we should believe in our ability to overcome unfair things in the moment while we work to make them better. And so in that context, the guy who was mad at us, it's kind of, you drove here from Vegas, and there's 50 people on the cast, and 50 people aren't going to get to talk, and some people aren't going to like try to help. Like, yeah, you could acknowledge, okay, that there are things to be upset about, right? But also you need to believe in your ability to grab the fucking mic, and I think honestly, you guys as trans,
I waited for my moment to grab the mic too, like, and I was very specific why I grabbed the mic, because my thing was I wanted to show the hypocrisy of what the fuck the right side was saying and be like, sounding very.
Also, you guys are both trans. You know what I'm talking about.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I'm an ally, actually. I support the community.
You guys have, and I'm saying guys in the gender neutral sense.
Damn it, cancel him.
Y'all, I'm not offended.
You guys,
I'm not offended.
You guys are like,
I am. Send me a Venmo.
The world has given you guys such an unfair hand, and you acknowledge that, and you push to make it better, and you believe in your ability to do this thing that is so unfairly difficult, which is to live a life that is worth living. And so it's like, that's just a thing that you have to be able to kind of walk and chew gum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I'm sorry.
And so, yeah, I think that there is a guy I work I dropped out of college right after my first time in college. I dropped out almost immediately, and I went back to my hometown, and I was like a stock boy at Walgreens. And I had this friend who was also like, not really doing anything. And every time there would be somebody who was
he a white man? No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Every time there was somebody who was better than him at something, he would find a way to describe them
white men do
negatively.
Yeah.
Or it'd be like there was this girl at her high school who was very social. Yeah. She is so fake. There is somebody who like went to like Stanford. Like,
It's
oh, he's an
just
overachiever. And it's like,
stuff and projection.
It's like instead of telling yourself stories about other people, believe in your ability to learn from them.
Absolutely.
Like with Oliver, you guys mentioned Oliver, this debater who's really good. I went up and I was like, how do you do that? How do you think so quickly? I'm amazed by that, and I admire that, and I can't do that. How do you do that?
And I like that we all recognize that he was batting the way that he was.
Yeah.
We didn't go like, my dick's got to be on the table because I need attention. We were like, no, we want to actually genuinely strategically win this. So let's put the best batter up.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to even think of that picture, by the way. That is just...
We do have to wrap soon, and I do want to give you your moment for your thing.
Oh,
Ryan,
okay,
let's give Ryan the last word.
Yeah.
Been very patient.
You get to close this out, Ryan. Here's all the attention. Well, you have the biggest following, so here you go, Ryan.
Well, there are two quick things I'll say. The first is we are all dealt the cards we're dealt, and we can both acknowledge that the suffering sucks and work on that, and cope with our feelings about it and all that stuff, and also take responsibility for it's my job to work with what I got. Yes. And that guy that was hating on us only did one of those things, and I hate that for him. I wish he would see it as a growth opportunity. But the other thing I'll say is I hosted a couple of episodes of Jubilee shows that are coming up. And
yes, congratulations!
Thank you. And something I've learned. Oh, yay! Something I've learned from politics that I also observed in Jubilee is that 95% of the time, when somebody thinks there's something malicious going on, there isn't. It's just that the system isn't great. It's most people don't have malicious intent. It's just that they're flawed beings trying to make things work in a flawed system. And I think. And what I do know specifically about Jubilee is that they have a very hard time, and I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, they have a harder time finding like qualified liberals to come on than conservatives. And that comes right back to, on the liberal side, we don't cultivate
no one's
people.
funding them. No one's mentoring them. No one's creating that farm to have that.
Not only that, there are people who like no one I know personally, no one I've met from, but like I saw this woman. I don't know her name. She's like bizarrely good looking to where it's like she's like an AI. Like I don't know that she's a real person. Has anyone seen her in person?
The black lady.
Yeah,
Dasha Carter.
Dasha.
Yeah,
with the blue eyes.
Yeah, she is
beautiful as fuck.
She is so pretty, it scares me.
She criticized
I didn't think she was real for the first.
But I saw this AI. I saw this video because I don't really watch TikToks, but I post on TikTok now on Greg from Video One, and so when I open,
we're also going to be going live soon too.
I opened the app and it plays one for me, and it played one of her, and she was like telling people to stop going on to Jubilee. And here's my thing, where it's like the videos are being made. We are in Los Angeles County. I'm going to talk to the camera and do what you do. We're in Los Angeles County. There are over 10 million people here. A lot of people have moved here to be in the entertainment business. And there's a YouTube channel with 10 million subscribers that is trying to get people on to be on camera. And I was in the Mr. Beast games. And that's how I found out about Jubilee, because someone there was like, you should go on Jubilee. And no hate to anyone from our Beast Games family. There are people there who literally weren't on camera. Literally were not on camera, not even in the background. You can't even Where's Waldo them. They're not there. And almost a year later, they're still trying like every day to convert that into a career in traditional or new media.
Yeah.
And so that is how desperate people are, because it's so hard. And I'm not even looking down on them. It's so hard to break through. It's so hard to break through. And so
it's taken me 10 years.
Yeah, they are. Jubilee is not going to run out of people to go on Jubilee videos. And so if everybody who is either thoughtful enough and or tuned in to the discourse enough to realize, hey, like there are some things about these videos that, might not be great from our perspective. And again, Jubilee is very aware of that perspective. The people who are going to be left to go on the Jubilee videos are going to be people who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And for example,
that's what I worry about.
Here is why I went on Jubilee. Ultimately, I applied because someone told me it was be fun. They asked me to do the Knowles one, and they sent me a Surrounded, which was, I believe it was the Ben Shapiro Surrounded. And I watched the first 2 minutes of it. And I had to turn it off because there's this guy, and I'm sure he's a wonderful guy, but he was the flower hat guy.
Oh, flower hat
guy. I have talked about flower hat guy in our true chat so much. And here's what flower hat guy does. He says, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. My friend made my hat. And then he just sits there for 3 minutes and just lets the other guy talk. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this, but I know that I know how to do this better than that guy knows how.
Well, and that just, I think
that's why I got so angry on set, because there were people that were like, Ben, hi, I'm a fan. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying?
I know.
You heard that too. I was like, what the fuck?
There was a bit
that's why I flipped the chair around.
So in terms of reality, we can talk about in terms of our ideology and our echo chamber and our circular firing squad and our purity test. But in terms of reality, if you think you would be better at this than like the median person, and you go on to the Jubilee video and you advocate for things that are good and against things that are bad, you're improving the outcome, as opposed to the alternate situation where everybody who is in any way better than average, even a little bit, boycotts it.
Well, I think something we now know for sure is that trying to disappear something you disapprove of doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like we talk about deplatforming problematic people, but they represent voices that already exist. And I think we have to confront them where those people can see them. And I think, and the same is true for like going on the show, like a format that's, or a producer or a host that's problematic. Those shows will continue to be made. And there is absolutely no, positive impact on society by saying that person's problematic, I'm not going to be on their show. That doesn't change anything.
And you don't have to. Also, the last thing I'll say on that, because I know that you
because we got to wind it down. I got the final thoughts today.
We do a two-part.
When I say, and people have talked
we can definitely bring you guys back. Actually, I'd love to have you guys back.
Thank you. If we want to like go on, like you don't have to like be at like the grocery store and someone has a MAGA hat and like engage them in compassionate dialogue, right? A way that you can be politically effective is just get 40 people who are on the fence and didn't vote to vote. Yeah. That will take the same amount of effort as converting one dyed-in-the-wool bigot. Yeah. Right? So it's not like in your personal life, like we have to all just like be tolerant of and like and interact with and like suffer a bunch of fools, right? But if there is a thing being made that like hundreds of thousands of conservatives are going to watch, you know what I mean? And that's where it's like I don't think any of us are saying that like in your personal life you need to just like put up with bigotry. No. But as a political strategy in a media space, it's a specific and different thing.
Well, and I think when you think about,
and that's my last thing. And Ryan,
I think about a military fighting a war. There are so many different specialists, people, snipers, and so like there will be.
You need a mercenary, you need a sniper, you need somebody that does the radio, you need somebody that does the.
And we got to think about our movement like that. And that gets all the way granular down to a trans woman who does feel comfortable with a white man talking about their issues and a trans woman who doesn't. It gets down, all these little component parts matter. And if you're not comfortable with, tolerating that, but another trans woman is, those are two different specialists that each have their opportunity to make difference in their way. We don't all have to be experts at everything. The other thing we need to do is rotate each other out. Like we need to be able to tap out, give everybody their R&R. Like if we all do our part and also give each other and ourselves grace to actually do it in a sustainable, long form way.
And support each other too. Not make this a pissing contest where I have to be on top.
Yes.
I love to take breaks. You like to take breaks, but we also want to support you back. It's good. Now, Blossom, I want to give you this moment because I know that there's something that happened with, what is it, Gay Magazine. Gay Magazine.
Oh my God.
I want to address this before the episode wraps up. And, before we get into this one point, make sure to follow these two gentlemen on their social medias. The link is going to be below. Make sure to follow all their good stuff, where they're going, where they're heading. Ryan's going to have some more Jubilee episodes. And also, Greg and I, we're going to be doing some TikTok lives. We're going to be talking about it and working together. We're going to be doing some new debate style with some actual empathy. No, but it's going to be two white dudes that have empathy and actually have lived experience. Absolutely. And we're a little older, so we might have a little bit different perspective of how we want to actually have a conversation on TikTok. But
also, I was about to make fun of them calling it Gay Magazine, and then you reminded me that my TikTok handle is Greg from Video One. I was always like, wow, Gay Magazine, so creative. And I was like, oh.
So I got the final thought for today, y'all. So I want to talk to my Black queer community, okay? Now, I feel that as someone who has a platform, it's important for me to use any and every platform to send a powerful message. Today, I want to publicly call in Gay Magazine. So Gay Magazine is a publication that focuses more on Black queer men, but they're expansive. They include the Black queer community. So Black trans women issues, Black lesbian issues, like they are a beautiful, powerful hub. And I genuinely love Gay Magazine. But recently they posted a post about a list of DL men that have been released in Houston. So apparently this Black trans woman gave out this DL list of men that she's been talking to. Now, me personally, when it comes to my personal opinion about it, I don't agree with it when trans women do that. For me, I feel like if you're doing it, are you thinking about your safety? Are you thinking about retaliation from these men that you are releasing? I understand that some Black trans women don't want to hold the secrets of don't want to hold the secrets of DL men, and I completely understand that. And people move to their own beat and their own drum, and I don't judge it. Me personally, I just worry about safety and retaliation. But Gay Magazine made a post about it, and there's nothing wrong with reporting it. Like they're really good at that. But in the slides, and I don't know if that post is still up or whatnot, they featured 2 Black gay men, and they were using microaggressions of transphobia to make their talking points. One Black guy was talking about how the trans community can be very problematic, and all of these things or whatnot. And for me, with Gay Magazine, I was really shocked that they even platformed that. They're calling it reporting, but it's almost like you're promoting it. And 2 things can exist at the same time. I just really want to call in publicly Gay Magazine and just let them know, be a little bit more careful with the transphobia that you are unconsciously posting. I think that there's a lot of unconscious bias there that we can all work through together.
Yeah.
This is not a read on Gay Magazine. Gay Magazine is wonderful because they platform Black trans voices. And although they were originally for like Black gay men, Black queer men, they have kindly expanded to other issues. And, Gay Magazine has actually posted some of the Jubilee debates. They've never posted mine. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because
Gay Magazine, you're going to do a cover on Blossom.
Yeah,
now.
we're gonna.
That's how we fix this.
We're gonna
okay?
get a photo shoot.
No. That's how we fix this.
No,
Put it into the ether. No, I'm your best friend. No, I'm going to give you the opportunity.
Stop.
So Gay Magazine, now what you should do is do an interview with Blossom because of the stuff that she's done, and then also have a conversation about this, and maybe even make her, I don't know, some sort of.
Y'all are so sweet.
Listen, I'm always trying to get everybody paid.
I'm gonna tell you why I'm okay if they don't do it, because
I'm not.
In some spaces, I may be a little too radical, and that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. But I just really wanted to call y'all in today and just say, just really be careful of what you post. I feel like y'all could have put Black gay men who had an opinion that was not transphobic, underlying transphobic, and I think it's important to catch the microaggressions. We as a Black people understand microaggressions very well. But there is a lot of transphobia in the Black queer community that we have to address. Our Black trans sisters like T.S. Madison and Angelica Ross and Hope Giselle and all of these other Black trans activists and powerhouses that I love so much are having to have this battle with Black queer men, our brothers, over what non-binary should be or not be, or using the right pronouns. Let's be clear. Everybody learned pronouns in the first grade. You learned he, she, they, them, and all the rest of them in first grade. All trans and non-binary people want from you is just to respect their pronoun. If they go by they, them, just acknowledge them as they, them. It does not harm you or take anything away from you. And for me, I feel like when you have a platform like Gay Magazine, like you have the power to make change. I have been following Gay Magazine since the beginning when they hardly had any followers and they were brand new. They've built that platform, and it is so beautiful to see Black excellence come together. And I want that Black excellence to continue, which is why I want to call you in with love, support, and intention, and just say, just be a little bit more careful on the underlying transphobia that you post, because your Black trans siblings and non-binary siblings are affected by it. And so that's really all that I have to say.
Thank you, Blanche.
And I just wanted to say that and thank both of you for being able to come on this show today. Make sure y'all subscribe to our channel so that way you'll know when we post new videos, and you already know. So
subscribe down below, folks, and also stay tuned for more episodes on Tuesdays from the Transparency Podcast. Blossom C. Brown, I love you as my best friend.
Only because of the thing.
Damn that.
Let's just say it's,
Yeah, back it up and say it. Back it up and say it. Okay.
Blossom C. Brown, you know, you're my best friend in the world, and I love doing these episodes with you. And Greg, Ryan, it's such a pleasure. We're definitely going to have you guys back.
Thanks for having us.
Hopefully we can even get a roundtable. My hopes are even to do like game nights with Jubilee folks.
I'm down. Yeah.
I got to make the money to expand to get us there, but I'm working on it. I'm trying, but you know, thank you guys again for driving as far as you did today. Of course. And you know, stay tuned more for the episodes to come, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And Blossom, do your closeout for us.
And take a little time to enjoy the Transparency Podcast Show. We will see you next time.